Good morning and welcome to Motivational Mornings, the podcast that gets you going before you get going.
Good morning and welcome to Motivational Mornings. My name is Ryan, and as always, I'm here today with my co-host Vivi. And in today's episode, we're going to discuss the book, The Ride of a Lifetime by Bob Igor. So if you don't know, Bob Igor is the former CEO and current executive chairman for the Walt Disney Company. And Bob was responsible for Disney's acquisitions of companies such as Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, and Fox being the most recent one. So I'm going to get right into it. And one of the first lessons I got from Bob Igor's book about his time at Disney was his idea that you should be always in the relentless pursuit of perfection. And so Bob talks about the idea that we don't want to accept being mediocre. When you're working on something, especially when you've been working on something for a long time and you're close to finishing, don't accept just good enough. It's so easy to just say, oh, well, it's good enough. We can stop here. But the small details are often what makes the difference. The small details are often what makes people stand out and make them great. I want to give you a recent example I've had personally. And so I've been applying for scholarships because I'm going back to school in September. And I've been working on these applications for weeks. And then it came down to the last few hours before the deadline. And to be honest, I was pretty done with the applications and I just wanted to submit them. I was scanning through them and I noticed that there were some formatting issues, like inconsistencies in line spacing, or some parts that were supposed to be bolded but they weren't. And so badly, I just wanted to be finished and submit the application. And I was thinking, is different line spacing, with it being a few millimeters off, really going to affect whether or not I get the scholarship? But luckily enough, I was reading this book at the time, and it really gave me the thought that I should put in that extra hour and just fix everything. I put all those weeks of effort into that point, so what's another hour? Maybe before I made those edits to my application, it was good enough. Maybe not. But I can tell you for sure, it definitely wasn't perfect. It definitely wasn't great. And deep down, I knew I shouldn't be striving for good enough. I should be striving for great. Another lesson Bob talks about is to value ability over experience. And now personally, I've heard stories of people that had 10, maybe 15 years of experience in a job or profession, but they still weren't great at what they're doing. And so I think there's two key takeaways from this lesson. One, if you have a lot of experience, that doesn't mean you should just stop focusing on trying to improve and get better. And then two, if you have limited experience, it doesn't mean just because you have that limited experience, you can't do something with it. I'm not saying experience isn't valuable, but I think experience can be a valuable teacher, but I think ability and drive is more important. So don't let experience limit what you think you can do. And one last tip here, one thing you can do to make up for a lack of experience is to find mentors that do have that experience. And so that's one easy way you can learn through their mistakes instead of having to make the same mistakes on your own.
If you want to check out this book, Ride of a Lifetime by Bob Igor, feel free to use our free Motivational Mornings coupon code through our sponsorship affiliate Audible. Feel free to check it out at audibletrial.com/mornings to get your free copy of this book. Now, one of the points that I found, Ryan, that was really interesting is how when Bob Igor talks about when you're living your life and your work life in specific, you'll be far more respected if you take honesty and responsibility for the times when you screw up. You see, a lot of the times when we mess up, we're easy to blame other people. I did it because of this. It happened because of so-and-so. But when in reality, a lot of the times when you just hone up and take responsibility on your own, a lot of those people who then were like, oh, he's making another excuse, will really value that you're taking the responsibility and owning up to the fact that you made a mistake. Bob Igor recounts countless stories of when he took the responsibility publicly And then a lot in return, because of that, he became a lot more well respected through his peers. Now, another one of the points that I wanted to bring up was not really a point, but more so a quote. Now, Bob talks about Winston Churchill's speech, the one where he gave to the world before World War II, when Britain was fighting Germany right in the thick of it, and he gives this quote: "It is not the critic who counts, nor the man who points out how strong a man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them any better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred with dust and sweat and blood." Now, Bob gave this speech quickly before Disney acquired Pixar for $7 billion, because back then the Disney board wasn't so keen on that acquisition. But so Bob had to continuously motivate the Disney board that it was a good idea to bring on Steve Jobs and Pixar onto Disney. And another point that I found really interesting was when Bob talks about his importance of Gestalt. So for those of you who don't know, Gestalt is like your gut feeling. And it's a very, very popular thing to talk about in the medical field, which I'm in. And because a lot of the times you don't typically have a immediate response or 100% certainty on a topic or maybe a patient's condition, but you have a gestalt that something is going wrong, something is up. Even though there's no direct cues, something is not right. And Bob recalls the story when Disney was considering buying Twitter. Now, I didn't even know that they were considering doing this back in the day, and that I almost went through, but the interesting part for me was that Bob said that he had a feeling it wasn't the right decision for the company. And he says at the end of it, if something doesn't feel right, it probably is because it's something that's not right for you. And so really, really listen to your inner gut feeling, because in the long run, it probably guides you to where you should be.
In this book, Bob talks about don't be in the business of playing it safe. Be in the business of creating possibilities for greatness. Now, Bob took big risks at Disney. And like Vivi touched on this before, but he was convincing the board that they should make these massive acquisitions of companies such as Pixar, Star Wars, Fox, Marvel. And if it went poorly, he would for sure have been fired. But on the other hand, if he didn't make those acquisitions, Disney would not be nearly as successful as they are today. Bob saw the weaknesses in Disney that needed to be fixed in order for them to be great. And these acquisitions enabled them to do that. Bob understood that they were risks to these acquisitions, but he also understood that there was upside as well. And now I think this is such an important lesson that we can use even just making decisions in our everyday lives. In life, we should be open to taking calculated risks. And I say calculated because we want to think of what the positive outcomes are and what the negative outcomes are. What's the best thing that can happen if I do this? And what's the worst thing that can happen if I do this? And then we want to compare and make sure that the good outweighs the bad. Now, you'll never be 100% sure how a choice is going to play out, but you can at least run through some potential possibilities and see if this choice or risk can get you ahead. Now, a lot of times we overlook risks because we're scared of what can go wrong, but we fail to see how this risk can potentially open up new and exciting opportunities. Don't be in the business of playing it safe. Be in the business of creating possibilities for greatness. Bob also talks about in the book balancing ambition with opportunity. Don't let ambitions and your future desires make you less productive at what you currently do. Make sure to take advantage of the opportunities that you currently have. So it's really about balancing your future and your goals with your present. What do you want to achieve in the future? But then also, what can you achieve right now? What are you working on right now? So I think a good example of this is if maybe you want to start a company, but right now you're working at a current job and you're getting opportunities here. Don't forget about what you're currently doing. If your boss gives you an assignment, make sure you're still doing that assignment to the best of your abilities, because you don't know what opportunities that may open up. If you're still in school right now, you can look ahead, but don't forget about what you're doing now. Make sure you're still studying and putting the effort in for the opportunities that you have at this moment. And so that's so important to remember, that we want to balance ambition with current opportunity and make sure that we're focused on both and don't let one dictate the other. That wraps up today's episode of Motivational Mornings. If you're interested in getting a free trial of Audible, you can go to audibletrial.com/mornings and get one free copy of any audiobook of your choice, including this book, The Ride of a Lifetime by Bob Igor, and get it free for 30 days. If you don't like the service, feel free to cancel within 30 days and you won't get charged. Thanks for listening, everyone, and have a great day.